you may have noticed that we've just gotten through Halloween. In case you haven't noticed, there are some amazing decorations out there. There are skulls, there are skeletons hanging from trees, hands coming out of graves. But when we want to talk about death, people want to leave the building. So if talking or listening to a conversation about death makes you uncomfortable, please feel free to play Candy Crush. It's okay. What I'm here today to do is to advocate for what I call a death plan. A plan to let people you know and love know what you want when you die. And I'm not talking about Aunt Millie's teapot. I'm talking about that intense grief right after you die. It's ways to soften and to give comfort. I have been involved in hospice and palliative care as an advocate for most of my adult life, and I have, for part of that time, been a home care volunteer. I've taken care of my family, friends, and strangers who became friends in hospice. And by the way, I have a spoiler alert here. Talking about death, making a plan will not end your life. Life will do that for you. I hesitated to use my mother as an example, but she had such a great plan. She was 98 when she died, so we can assume she had plenty of time to think about it. But it was so comforting and wonderful. About a year after my father died in a hospice program, my mother and I were sitting in her kitchen, and we started talking about things that might give her comfort and what her plans were. And right off the bat, she said, I've already written my own obituary, and I have most of my plan worked out. Surprise, but it was... So anyway, as we sat there and talked, she said, I've written my own obituary. It's in the left-hand drawer of my desk. When she moved to assisted living, it went to the left-hand drawer of her new desk. We then talked about some comfort kinds of things. I said, well, if you can't speak or whatever, what about some music? She said, try it. I said, what about massage? And this is the finger in my family. Don't even think about it. I don't want strangers touching me. Clarity can be a good thing. So when she did die, we went to the left-hand drawer, and there was her obituary and her plan. And part of that was sending us up to her church because she recognized that my two brothers and I are, as we say, belief diverse. So we go up to the church. The minister comes out. There's a plan, everything we need to know. And underlined, strongly underlined, no eulogy. She said she felt that they were often too long and not always truthful. So we continued to follow her plan, and part of that was that my two brothers and I followed her plain wooden casket that she picked out to the crematory. And we were there when it went into the furnace. And my brother had to ask, well, how many people do this in a year? And I looked at the three of us and said, about 3. We continued the process by taking her ashes out on a boat into the bay in front of the house she loved with her children, her grandchildren, and some of her great-grandchildren. And we let the ashes go. And my 4-year-old grandniece looks over and goes, oh, look, Mom, she's floating away. So soft, comfortable, careful. Okay, so you noticed in this talk I didn't die. But if I am hit by a bus on the way home, right-hand drawer of my desk has my complete plan. And I just recently added a DJ. We'll see how that goes. So for me, the risk is not in talking about death or making a plan to soften and comfort for people that you love. the risk is not talking about death and not making a plan. And by the way, if you don't make a plan, you might not get the DJ you'd like. Thank you.